The government is promising to get more people into KiwiSaver, but its push is being labelled too weak, and that's not just by the opposition. Its latest policy proposal dodges compulsion. So for some more on this, I'm joined by Amanda Morrall from interest.co.nz. Good morning to you, Amanda.
Good morning.
What kind of reaction have you managed to gauge from those who are providing these funds, the KiwiSaver fund managers?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed opinion out there, but I'd say on the whole that most providers feel pretty strongly about compulsion. The concern is that New Zealanders are not saving enough for their retirement futures, and compulsion might be the best route to kind of get them in that way and planning for their futures.
But I suppose you might say they're the ones who benefit from the scheme. They would say that. There must be some fishhooks to compulsion.
Oh, look, they do have a vested interest. That's their business. But, I mean, these are people who manage money for a living. You can rest assured they've planned well for their own retirement futures. And some of them are not entirely self-serving. I mean, there is a genuine crisis with savings in New Zealand, and we have a negative savings rate. Generally speaking, most people don't give much thought to their retirement futures, nor do they plan for it. So I think they're just trying to push them along that route and get them better prepared.
Although, I guess if you make it compulsory, the scheme does become more expensive.
In what sense would it be more expensive?
For the government to provide the incentives.
Oh, right. So, yeah, they're projecting that if they did this auto-enrollment, that it would cost $550 million over the course of 4 years. But you have to bear in mind that this is contingent upon the government achieving a surplus in 2014 and 15, and so as to whether they'll be able to achieve that, that's pretty speculative, but who knows what could happen between now and then with our economy. Maybe they'll be in a better position to handle it, and perhaps not.
So still some question marks lie around that. Is it just about compulsion though, or do we need to be contributing a greater proportion of our salaries to the scheme?
Well, that's what one of the providers that I spoke with was trying to press upon people, is that, you know, we're talking about 2 or 3% next year in April, but in other countries they're looking at a much more dramatic contribution rate. Tower investments suggest we should be looking more at a contribution rate of between 9 and 12%, and not overnight. Of course, that's something that we need to be gradually phasing in so people could prepare for it adequately. But yeah, that's not out of the norm. I mean, in the U.S. now, and when they talk about retirement savings, they're talking about between 12 and 20% of your gross income you should be setting aside for retirement. So it's not such a radical suggestion.
So we're a long way off that. What about employers, Amanda? What have they had to say about their reaction to the idea of compulsion?
Well, I spoke with somebody at Workplace Savings, and they represent the employers out there. For them, you know, it's another headache, the compliance, how they're going to, you know, subscribe these people, how they get them out if they want to get out. So it's a bit of an added nuisance for them. But, you know, they're kind of at the government's mercy as to whether they go along with it or not. So at the end of the day, they don't get too much say in it, I suppose, although there is opportunity before National introduces this one-off auto-enrollment scheme. They're going to be consulting with employers and also providers to determine how best they can achieve that and the most effective, efficient outcomes. So they'll get their say in it, but you know, at the end of the day, they've got to roll with it.
And then we've got to make sure that those people understand what they're putting their money into. Thank you, Amanda.